Hello, and welcome to Answers for Your Anxious Animal, How to Create More Peace and the Peace Method for your home. My name is Kara Udziela. I'm an animal communicator and an animal energy healer for more than 15 years now. And I have devised a method that I think if you look at every aspect of your animal's life from this frame and constantly recalibrate, yes, sometimes using animal communication methods that you can do at home, as well as other things in your environment, you will find that you can take even the most anxious animal to a more peaceful place. I have recorded this today with people who are interested, and you may hear things that relate to your own a situation at home, hopefully through their comments, but I want to call your attention to the fact that you have a workbook available to you. It would be useful for you to print that while you're watching this video. I have also included a meditation that I have recorded that helps you to connect better with your animal and to dissolve over time some of those negative feelings you have about their behaviors and the behaviors themselves. People who are my clients who use that 2 to 3 times a week over a period of 5 to 6 weeks report that their animals are 20% better without them doing anything else. So I encourage you to try to listen to that. And there is also an ebook that you will find in your materials, which is all about how do you choose the right job for your pet in your house, which is one of the first things we're going to talk about today. So when we get started, I just want to say for those of you here today and who are watching this recording, if you have an anxious animal, I sympathize so much because I have always had one anxious animal in my household, and it can be so tiring and draining. And so I want to tell you, I understand and I'm sorry. And I want to remove that guilt from you that maybe you have done something, but I also want to remove the idea that this is not solvable or fixable, because you can do many things, right? There's a lot of people who adopt a rescue in particular who think, oh, I have to feel sorry for this animal for the rest of its life. And actually, that is a self-perpetuating problem, right? So if you've brought a rescue in particular into your life and they have anxiety, I don't want you to tell that story to everybody you meet that you have a rescue and she was poorly trained and or she was in a box for the first half year of her life or whatever the story is, because just like with a human who has trauma, we can carry our trauma like a badge on our forearm for the or shoulder or forearm for the rest of our lives, or we can decide to drop it and let it go. And so if you have a rescue in particular who's anxious, I want you to ask you to say, we're not going to call them that anymore. And we're not going to tell that story anymore. But nowadays, the most recent studies show that dog or cat, 70% of these animals, 70% of dogs now suffer from anxiety. That only gives you a 30% chance that you're going to get a completely calm dog, no matter what you do. And 25% of cats have anxiety problems. That's quite a high number. So you are not alone in these challenges. But I want you to start to see that anxiety can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. Um, and so you want to turn to the page in your work, if you're watching, if you're using the workbook right now, which asks you which behaviors does your anxious animal express? And you see that I have several things listed there that some you might be familiar with. And you guys, you're welcome to turn on your sound now if you'd like to participate in this portion. Do you have a really nervous or shy and hiding animal? Do they act in that way? Or are they very, very barky and sound sensitive? Sound sensitive meaning they're either always hearing everything and turning their heads, or they're sight sensitive. Some are very sight sensitive, like with wheels or cars going by, right? And some look dangerous because they're quite reactive. And I find that a lot of my clients see their reactive dogs in particular or what they consider to be a bully cat, they think that that animal is mean. But 90% of the time, when I go in as an animal energy healer and assess the situation and ask the animal what's going on, or try to get inside their body and feel their feelings, they are actually terrified, right? It looks like being on the offense, but it's on the offense to protect a deep fear inside. So with that being said, would anybody like to share what they think they're dealing with in their household?
I've got a beautiful girl who's come to us recently, joining our family, and she barks when she's not around me. She's attached to me,
Mm-hmm.
and she will scratch at doors, will pace, and whinny like a horse, even though she's a dog.
Yeah. If the doors are closed and she's away from you.
If she
Yeah.
can't access me, yeah, or if I go around the corner, leave the house, I come back, she's been barking.
Yes. And that is often because that animal has been left by people that it's attached to. And so now every time someone leaves, they're absolutely sure that that person's not coming back. Right? So we will work on that and we'll talk about how we can change that animal's environment and maybe do some training that will reduce that, because there's a lot that energy work can do and body work can do, but sometimes we might also need a practical solution. Okay, anybody else have something that they would like to share? And if you don't want to share, that's okay.
So I have a dog. She's a lot better. She's a Dutch Shepherd. But she has anxiety during weird things. I'm not sure that's totally predictable because sometimes she's relaxed, but the most common thing, like if we like get up to put shoes on, or she knows that like something's gonna happen where either we're gonna leave or she's gonna leave with us, she tends to freak out. And then also, and I generally take her with us pretty much everywhere. We're really lucky that way. But when we get home and we park and we're in the car, if my daughter isn't in the front seat, she will absolutely have a conniption fit until we get out of the car. So the minute that I park and unlock my seatbelt, she goes back and forth between the front and back seat and just completely panics, even though we're just gonna go right into the house. So it's really interesting. I notice it has to do with behaviors of like coming and going. It used to be really, really bad, and then also when we're on walks she has a lot of anxiety and I don't know what to do about that. But she's not anxious all the time. For the most part she's just a couch potato and she sleeps and relaxes, and the longer, because we've only had her 2 years, and the longer we've had her the more relaxed she becomes. But there's those moments where she like it's like she goes from calm to freak out. It's really weird.
Okay, so I don't want to skip ahead too much too far, but when we get to the piece about communication, I want you to ask me what's your tip for me there, okay?
Okay.
Because there's a very specific set of visuals I want you to start giving your animal and Emily too, to where you are doing animal communication, but the animal is starting to see a different image. Because right now you've just explained two situations that happen for you consistently, and whether you know it or not, you're actually telling her to do those things. So we're going to stop telling her to do those things, and it's a little fake it till you make it. So put a pin in that and we'll get back to it. Okay. Is anything else for you, Annabelle, or is it pretty similar for you? Kind of anxiety with coming and going and people leaving.
It's more so just in general. She's always just a bit nervous and wary of things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll get to some of that in the coming little bit here. Okay. And none of yours sound like they are mean to other animals, just nervous around others. But for those of you who are watching this, who may have a dog who they think is a bit of a bully, please think of them instead. I don't want you to feel sorry for them, but I want you to reframe it as they may be very afraid they cannot protect me. Okay. So now I would like to talk about a system I've put together when I tackle things with my anxious animal clients that I think works very well. It's a framework called PEACE. It stands for purpose, environment, assertion, communication, and energy work and body work. You can write those things down, or you can refer to your workbook for them. And we are going to go through each step in this process and try to give you a little head start with this video on helping your animal to start feeling more accustomed to the things that are happening around them, and to slightly change their environment so they can expect different things from you and your household. You want to move forward now to the section of your workbook that says purpose, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. There's the ebook about this, which is the hidden reasons your animal acts that way. You can grab that and read this after this call or after this video is over. Animals choose a job in your house, and if you do not give them a job, they will pick it for themselves. Most of us do give our animals jobs unwittingly, by the way we talk to them, the tone of voice that we use, what we say, or why we got them in the first place. The most common ones that I hear that we give them are like, I want him to protect the backyard, or I wanted a cuddle buddy, or I needed a baby. You're my baby. You're my beautiful baby. And unfortunately, these are kind of the worst jobs that you can give an animal. And many animal communicators, including myself, have learned and taught over the years that the first thing you want to do is establish a great job for your animal. So I want you to think about, what do you think your animal feels their job is in your house right now? Think about that. If you're doing this at home, please think about when I see them move around the house, or when I speak to them a lot, what do I think they're supposed to be doing? Okay. As an animal communicator, I will hear sometimes, I don't know what my job is. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing, particularly if there are multiple animals in the house. But oftentimes I will hear, I'm the baby, or I'm the protector. And combined with that protector piece is, I'm the protector, but I'm completely incapable of protecting them. Or I feel that I have to be the protector because my woman is really tiny and small, and when we go on walks, there's no way she could protect us, so I better be on the offensive while we're walking so that I keep everyone away from us, right? And then I want you to think about, if you have thought about a job that they think they do that you don't really like, or that doesn't match the needs of your household, what do they do that you absolutely love? That's part of their natural personality that makes you smile every day. Okay? Can anybody think of something that they do that their animals love, that you love? Yes, Allie.
Yeah, it's so funny because the longer that we have Brinkley, our Dutch Shepherd, the more her personality comes out. And a couple weeks ago, she started doing this thing upstairs where she gets sumis and she runs back and forth between mine and my daughter's room. And we
Yes.
started buying her toys because we were told she didn't like toys. And I just got to this point where I was like, I don't know if I believe that. So we started buying her toys. And so now she has she picks a toy and takes it upstairs, and we'll run back and forth, and it makes us laugh until we cry. It's so funny. But so it's a new thing.
Yes.
But yeah, that's something she does that we love.
Okay, so that's great. So then you can call her something like the Zoomies dog or the play dog. And that can be one of her jobs, right? And I like animals to have two jobs in the house, if you can think of them. And they have to be things that you absolutely love and you do not mind complimenting them about 20 times a day, at least for 2 weeks. Okay. After they start to really get it, then you can back off to 5 to 10 times a day, right? Now, for those of you who are listening to this and are like, well, that seems really silly, or like, how am I going to remember to do that? Remember, if it's something you're already kind of naturally complimenting them on, say you have a very beautiful animal or you think they're pretty, that's pretty easy to do. But I want you to kind of amp it up a notch, right? So if you have a pretty dog or a handsome dog and you're calling them that all the time, or a cat, I want you to get a picture out or make them an Instagram account, or something, and then go, I'm going to make you famous because you're just born to be a star. And they will naturally feel like you are giving them lots of great energy. Now think about that combined with what we're here to talk about today. You are all frustrated because you have an anxious animal, and that means the majority of your focus is attending to all the ways in which they don't perform correctly, right? So while then you can kind of flip the script on them and focus on all the great things they do, they're going to be getting all this different energy from you that's only positive, right? Which is not to mean they're going to be perfect overnight. This is not a fast process always, but once they get used to that 2 or 3 weeks of you giving them lots of praise, then you can kind of start to say, oh, like for Allie's dog that's like, in the car losing her mind. Okay, listen, you are the Zoomies dog, but we don't do Zoomies in the car. Okay, or for Emily's dog, if she's beautiful and she's the beautiful dog, well, a beautiful dog is also very noble and calm, and you're not being very calm right now. And I have always come back, right? I have always come back. And reassure her, I know some people may not have come back, but this is your permanent home. You can stay here forever. Right? And I'm going to be right back. Okay. The other thing is I don't want them to have, if you have 2 animals, which many people do, it cannot be a competitive thing. So make sure that there is one job that's very clear for the first dog you had, and then another job that's very clear for the second, and never make one feel, because I constantly hear from animals that one feels like a hero and one feels like a zero. And sometimes the hero dog or cat says, I'm the cool, smart one, and I like it that this one's kind of stupid and anxious because I look better. Right? So we have to kind of balance that out. And even in a communication session, I would have a very serious talk with the first one to be like, is it really fair for you to always be the hero? How about we help tutor this other one on how to be a great, calm animal? You can be the teacher and of them on how to be nicer. And then they go, and they kind of like that. And then if you reinforce that, if you have a calm dog and an anxious dog, the calm dog can be the tool to help the anxious dog feel and look better. Is that clear? Does that kind of make sense what you're going to do? Yes, Allie.
I do have a question because we have 4 animals, but 3 of them are cats and 1 is a new addition. They seem to be integrating really well, but what I'm curious about is and we can get to this whenever it makes sense in the training, but one thing Brinkley does do, and it's more recent, is she barks a lot because she can see out the front door now, so she barks at a lot of people that walk by. So she probably thinks she's the protector, but she doesn't need to be. So I'm just curious how that works with the role that she gets versus the cats too. Do they need to go together, or is it separate? Because it's not dog on dog, if that makes sense. So they're not usually competing.
So remember, people come to an animal communicator to know what an animal feels about themselves or thinks who they are, and kind of do energy work on problems. But you guys already know intuitively who your animal is. And that's why a communication session can make you crack up, because it's funny to have a person tune into your animal for 3 minutes and be like, oh, this one thinks this about themselves. And the job becomes very clear. So I'm sure you already have some ideas about who those animals are. I just don't want those jobs to compete with each other. And the thing you're describing with, what's your Brinkley, with the dog, with the dog being at the window, here's where I'm going to tell you that animal communication alone is not going to solve that problem. I'm going to give you my little tip, right? I'm going to give you a tip, and I'll try to put something in a PDF that will help you guys. But there is a thank you technique that you can do for barking dogs. So for a week, Brinkley cannot be at that window without somebody being there with him. And as every single time he barks, you're going to project an energetic bubble around you. Show him that bubble if you can visualize. If you are aphantasic, meaning you do not see pictures, just imagine your energy is huge around you. Feel that energy. Put Brinkley next to you and then stand right up the minute he barks and say, thank you. And go to the window and make a big pantomime of looking out. Do not open the door. This does not work when your FedEx delivery is coming. You do that, and then you turn around, and he may still bark a little, and you just put your hand up and say, thank you, I have it, I've got this. And a smart dog, within 2 or 3 days of you doing that, they'll bark once, and then they'll literally turn their head to see if you're going to do it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Am I going to have to keep doing this for the rest of my life? No, after about a week, you don't have to do it, and you will be down the hallway and your animal will bark and you will yell, thank you. And the dog will go and like shake. It's a stress shake. But what you are describing is the fact that Berkeley doesn't see you as the energy leader of his home. Okay, so you have to take back that leadership. But too many people bark, with their animal. So when your dog is barking and you bark at them to shut up, most dogs go, hey, it's a party. She agrees with me. There's a threat. Let's get them together. Okay, so that's why I want you to do the thank you technique. Okay, and I want you to spend a few moments also when you have time to go through what you think your pet's current purpose is, and then what does she do or he do that I love that I could make his or her new job. Now I'm going to go and move on to the second letter of the peace protocol, which is the environment. Okay. And Allie referred to this earlier, where one of her dog's triggers is being in the garage and having everyone home, and then she wants to run around the car because she wants to get out. Actually, when I'm tuning into it right now, and I can be wrong because that's not my focus at this moment, I don't actually think that's an exemplification of anxiety. I think she's excited to be home and wants to be back in the house. So what I would do with that is I want you to create a little mental visual for yourself. And if you have to draw it, that's fine. But like draw a bridge on a piece of paper or in your mind of the dog in the car and a bridge to the garage and the inside of the house. And there's a lot of static there, and I want you to clear it off in your mind's eye. And then because you're thinking of it, you are actually projecting mental images when you get in that car of, oh my God, is Brinkley going to be a barker at this situation in the garage again? So before your next trip out, and for every trip after this, I want you to send Brinkley a mental movie or the thought pattern of, we're going to get home and you're going to bark less when we come into the garage. Now, let me be very clear about these triggers and the visuals, because I'm giving you animal communication instruction right now, okay? We cannot take an F student, and let's go back to Emily's example, right, of a dog who's always whining when doors are shut behind them. We can't always give that dog like a visual of you walking out of the room and not quieting down at once and just laying down. You might need to start your visual at she whines for 2 minutes, but then she settles. And you send her the mental movie of whining less. Or if a dog pulls on the leash every time you walk, right now your visual is, oh my God, my shoulder is going to be hurting so much and I'm going to be yanking down the street. Instead, you're going to send them a mental movie of responding to training commands better down the street a little bit. And then when they start doing that after a week or two pretty well, and you go, God, hey, my walks have been about 20% better, then you can graduate them up to a stronger visual of doing even better. Okay. And I want you to look at what triggers your animal. And we just talked about one of those triggers being like the windows or the doors. I actually don't think most animals should have access to windows or doors if they're going to react badly to it when you are not there to manage it. 15 minutes of barking at a window creates 5 hours of high cortisol level. And then maybe they're doing it while you're gone. You don't even know, but you come home to a highly anxious animal because of that. So what do? Is there a room in your house where you can put them where there's less access to windows while you're gone? And I know I can hear people right now thinking, oh my God, like it's my dog's joy or my cat's joy to look out the window. Yes, it is. But if that only creates more anxiety, let's pick a different thing for them to do for at least a few hours a day. Okay? Same thing goes with fetching. Some people love to teach fetching, but for the anxious dog, it can quickly become an obsession that then creates high levels of constant stress. What do if you've already got a fetcher? If you already have a fetcher, you need to have them learn how to fetch 1 to 2 times, maybe 3 times, and then bring them down to a sit or a lay down for 3 to 4 minutes at a time. And the whole game should be just 3 rounds of fetch and 3 sittings or layings, because then they're learning how to regulate their own emotions. Am I making sense to you guys? Okay. And then the other thing is, what is happening in your house? And this is not in any way accusatory, but I will say, if your house is chaotic or naturally loud because of children or people who are just very emotive, some animals are not super great with that kind of level of activity or loudness. And it's good to give them some quiet time or some low level music that helps them to tune some of that out. And get the family unified on that. A lot of times animals are also anxious because they have different rules for mom, different rules for dad, different rules with the kids. And so nobody's on the same page. Nobody agrees how they're going to train the animal, dog or cat, or how they're going to treat them. And so even when we go back to purpose, I want to make sure that if you have a partner who just doesn't buy into this stuff, all you do is just say, hey, could you give her a few compliments a day for being pretty? But you don't have to tell them the whole story behind it, but at least they're helping to create some of that good soup, energetic soup. The other thing is regarding this is what I referred to at the very beginning of this call, which is to not feel sorry for them and to start expecting maturity. So when they start exhibiting an anxious behavior, you remind them of their purpose and their job in your house, and you say, I've been treating you as though you're a little scared, small thing. And I apologize for that, but I'm going to expect more of you right now. You can do this. You can grow up into this. I'm going to give you the support you need, but we're not going to tolerate XYZ in terms of your behavior. Okay. And one other thing that I had a really great trainer tell me once that I think I would pass on to you is, sometimes we have expectations of animals, particularly anxious ones, because they have disappointed us, if I can really say it that way. Like, we got them for a certain reason. And raise your hand if this resonates with you. Raise your hand. And that's like, we wanted an animal to be really cuddly, and they're not cuddly, and they're maybe afraid and shy, or they seem to hide a lot. Or I had one client who was always really frustrated because one of her dogs would always bark if people came into her house and never wants to be petted very much, which are all symbols of anxiety. And she asked one of the trainers on one of my Facebook calls, what should I do to make her more friendly to people in the house when they come in? And he said, really, like, is it really absolutely necessary to you to make that animal more friendly or to make her an extrovert when she's an introvert? Do we have a fail safe we can give her? Like, is it just okay for her to go to the bedroom, right? And not have to interact with guests, you know? And instead of us being disappointed about that and have it be a bone of contention between the two of you, how about you just accept that that's a little too much stimulation for her? So I want you to also think about, you know, the fact that you have an anxious animal and they have started to relax around you, and that for you, they will lay down and snuggle and love, or for you, they will want to sit in your room, even though when you first got them, they would barely come near you. You have come a long way with that animal. And so let's give them a little bit of a break sometimes. I will also say, in terms of environment, and you have a worksheet there about environment, you need to try not to be resentful about how the animal responds to his environment. Every time you feel that resentment kind of creeping up in your chest, I want you to try to think of it from the animal's point of view. Why are they like that? And finally, I would say, as much as I don't love cleaning my house, I'm not a big happy cleaner, but I will do it. Most animals function best with a less cluttered environment. Physical environment. Okay. So take a little time when you notice that they're acting more stressy, and look if there's like laundry piled in a corner, if there's a lot of boxes out, you know, etc. And note your own stress levels. So there are also, it's very common for us, if we are anxious people, to then draw an anxious animal into our lives, which is not to say you caused that anxiety, but some of us draw an anxious animal in because you're being asked by the universe, do I want to continue this pattern? Right? Is it time for me to address my own anxiety, or the fact that I always choose a partner with anxiety? By then, I'm not going to let this animal become another element of that pattern. And you can solve it there. Okay. The next piece is assertion. First, I want to say, before you label your animal anxious, right, that there's something wrong, etc., you do want to check if there is something medical wrong, particularly if they were not anxious and then became anxious. A lot of older animals become anxious as they get older. So you just want to check that they're not in physical pain. Okay. That does not mean I want to run to the veterinarian and get anxiety medicine. It just means I want to check for physical problems. Okay. I'm also not anti-medicine, but I don't think it's necessarily the first thing unless you're in a dangerous situation. I want you to stop reinforcing anxiety in your pet. And my very first dog trainer, when I first had my dog at 28, said to me one time, hey, how about we don't tell a dog that it's okay? How many of us have told a dog, it's okay when they're whining during fireworks or something. It's okay, you're okay, you're okay. She said energetically, and she was not an animal communicator, she just knew this. She's like, if I tell my dog it's okay while they're whining or they're crying, what I'm reinforcing with them is they are in perfect right to be freaking out right now. So you need to say something like, I have this. This will be okay. I see that you're upset. I've got it handled. Right? And you heard my voice right then, right? I am not even able to say, I'm not even able to speak in a high voice. I don't have a high register. But if you are a woman in particular who has a very high register, who speaks, I can't do it, but you understand what I'm saying. Like you go, hello, oh, sweetie, 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 but it's very high. Animals don't take you seriously. They really don't believe you are an energy leader if you talk in a very high feminine voice. And that's why some of you are frustrated that when a male friend of yours comes over and talks in their normally low voice, that the dog or cat seems to respond differently to them. Okay. We also love to talk to our babies and go, you're my baby. I love you. I love you. I love you. And all of that can make them feel stuck in being anxious or being a baby. So I want you to start to practice with lowering the modulation of your voice when you're speaking to them, if you don't naturally do so already. I want you to also start rewarding the smallest victories. Some of us get, especially a dog, and we give them lots of treats in the first year that we have them, and then we stop reinforcing either their training or their treats. All of a sudden, they're not sitting anymore for anything. They're not in a down for anything. They're not having to heel. We just get a little sloppy and a lazy. Not only does training help them to have mental stimulation during the day, then tire them out. 15 minutes of training is like a 40-minute walk, right? That's a lot of energy expended. But it also reminds them that you are in charge of the household without being mean or forceful about it, okay? And I feel like a lot of people at this step, and you guys can tell me, I'd love to hear from you about it, with dogs in particular, where we have a big problem in a lot of areas, that dog training is not regulated, right? So even if you feel you've done all the best things and you've hired maybe one, maybe two or more trainers, or you sent your dog away to doggy training for a week, and you still have problems, or you have worse problems than when you sent them away, I am sorry. But there are a wide variety of methods and people who are certified to be dog trainers who think very differently on this subject. I will tell you my thoughts. I think every dog deserves formal training. I do not find boarding training helpful, because you are the energy leader of your home, and when you send them away at a very high cost, a lot of animals come back worse off because they feel anxious and abandoned while they're there. That trainer has a different energy than you, and as soon as they come back, they see the soft fluffy couch and they see the bed, and they want to backslide into all their old behaviors. So for me, that doesn't work best. And particularly when you have an anxious animal, bringing a force-free dog trainer into your home, or a cat behaviorist who's used to helping support the growth and confidence of a very shy cat, you're going to have better results. It's a little more expensive, but it's faster and more effective. Okay. But I find that people go, oh yeah, I've tried training, and so I'm not going to try that again. I've already done it. I know it was expensive and time consuming, but just like you can go to a human counselor and have them not be the human counselor for you, you might need to try another one, right? And if you are new and have a newer anxious animal, I want you to think about it as an investment in the next 10 to 15 years of your life. Because it will, a short-term pain and effort for that, for a peaceful 10 years, is well worth it. Okay? So anyone here want to share, like, if they feel they assert with their animal, or they're not asserting, or their animal is reacting poorly to the assertion? Yes, Emily.
I'm just making my notes on, did a lot of positive reinforcement for this new member of our household in the first 2 weeks, and then I've gone, oh, I'm a bit tired of that. So I just need to maintain that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the areas where I'm now asserting myself is I'm putting more boundaries in around the way I want her to behave around doorways and things, because she crowds the doorways and does these things out of this fear of being locked out or put away, or whatever the fear she has.
Yeah.
So, you're just giving me the stuff around the mental pictures that I can create around the way I want her to behave around those doorways. And I've got things like, she's so nervous, she wants to be like under my feet all the time. And that's, not safe for her and stressful for me. And then if I get stressed, then I notice she's more stressed, which feels like the number one kind of toxic spiral that you're getting to, is like her anxiety makes me more anxious. And then she's like, oh my God, she's not being my leader. She hasn't got it handled. Things aren't okay. So yeah, I'm going to do a whole bunch of training around, particularly like she can walk around me and be around me, but just like not when I'm in the kitchen or something.
Yes.
So I'll do a bunch of that. And my thing is, I just go to being like, get out. Like I just get this really mean, I just become mean, and that won't help her anxiety. So I'm going to be a lot kinder
Yes,
and
well,
like a cue or
and
something.
and if you're watching this video, you're already trying and wanting to be what I call a sacred animal guardian, right? A lot of people wouldn't even bother. They just say, "Oh, I have this anxious animal, and what a pain in the butt." You know what I mean? And they don't do that. You're not doing that. So you are seeing that it's important for you to like do that. The course correction will happen. It's fine. Okay. Yeah. So you're doing a great job at that. Okay. And when I get down to the communication piece, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Anybody else want to say anything or ask any questions at this point? Yes, Allie.
Okay, so I have a little bit of a thing I'm getting over, but I naturally have a very high-pitched voice and I cannot get it to actually go low. So
Mhm.
how much does that impact like I feel like energetically I'm the leader of the household because I'm that way with my kid and cats. And I feel like the longer we have Brinkley, the more she feels that. But sometimes I feel like if I need to assert, I can't. Like she's unsure. I don't think that she doesn't take me seriously, but she's like wobbly.
Mm. I don't think, first of all, I don't find your voice terribly high. I think it's okay. It may be a little bit high, but I don't think it, and I think that like intention is everything, right? So if you can just intend that my voice will sound lower to him than I think it is, that will help a lot.
Okay.
There are also breathing exercises you can do to lower your register, right?
I've done that over the years. I've gotten my voice down a couple octaves. It used to be really high pitched, but yeah, so I can like keep working on it.
Yeah, but I don't think that alone, if you're doing everything else, the high pitched voice is not the biggest
The
culprit.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're okay. Okay. Um, all right. Okay, so now let's think about how you are asserting right now and where you're not asserting very well, right? Or where you're falling back. And assertion doesn't mean being mean, right? It just means, okay, putting up a little bit of boundaries, right? And then let's talk about communication, animal communication. Certainly you can hire an animal communicator, but you are already communicating with your animal. And we've already kind of touched on that by me saying, send them the mental movies of the things that you want. And I want to say about 2% of the population does not see. So if I want you to close your eyes right now, and I want you to try to imagine an apple behind the bat behind your eye. If you can just try to see that apple, right? Can anybody see the apple? So Emily's like,
I just imagine, I've learned over the years to just imagine that I'm seeing it because I don't have the visual thing. So I just imagine that I'm seeing it and I think it lights up the same parts of my brain.
It does. That's right. And it's interesting because the reading I have done says that 2% of people have what's called aphantasia and they cannot see something in their brain. Okay. My personal experience as a teacher of meditation and of animal communication for 15 years says that the number is actually much higher. I think it's much higher because when I teach my classes, I have at least 2 or 3 people a year who don't see anything. That does not mean you are less intuitive or that you are less powerful. So forgive me if on this workshop I have said see several times. You can still send the feeling of calm, right? You can still tell them with words from your mind or out loud, this is what you're going to do. And it has the same effect because all of you have intuition. And how do you know you have intuition? Think about the last time you did something where you were like, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't buy that car, or I shouldn't go to the store right now, or whatever. The shouldn't is sort of the easiest way to think about it, right? Now think about that thing. You got it in your mind? How did you know you shouldn't do that thing? Did you feel it in your body? Did you hear a voice in your head? Did you see like something in your mind that said, I feel like that's not going to be good in the next moment, right? Did you just get really cold? Something happened for you. So that is probably a sign of one of your strongest clairs, right? Go with that. Lead with that. But know that just by intending that the feeling is for your animal to be calmer, maybe how it is for you, if you're very kinesthetic, you have to get yourself to feel calm in your own body. And then imagine your dog also feeling that same sense of calm. I hope that that's helpful, right? But you want to communicate to them what it is that you want them to do. If you're in a communication session with me or with someone else, communication via telepathy we can ask them what do they think their job is, which is sometimes wildly different than what you think you've told them to do, and then we work on reinforcing it. It also illustrates the way that they think and what they think is important to them, right? And it also restores your hope as a guardian, because they are always wanting to, well, I should say 98% of the time, wanting to make your life better as well as their own. And they're often confused about how to do that. And then once we give them a different job to do, like I just talked to a client last night or the night before, and she has a much younger dog who's always jumping on a 16-year-old dog. And we just had to have a big conversation with that dog about how she needed to be the gentle friend to this old dog and to see him out to the last year of his life quite gracefully, because she's beautiful. So she had two jobs, is to be beautiful and to be gentle with her older dog friend. Well, of course, she did a little bouncing around after the call, and her owner was able to say, you're beautiful, but it's not beautiful when you go jump on Mingo. It's not beautiful at all. I need you to be gentle with him. I think it's now 36 hours later, and the dog has completely changed toward Mingo, because she wants to be praised for being beautiful and she wants to be gentle with him, so she gets more praise. So you can also do this same thing by saying, well, this is what all the things I think about my animal. But if I were my animal and I'm walking around trying to push through doors or like bounce through the car or be anxious at every interaction animal, what do I think they're thinking about their life? So you don't have to hire a communicator. You can just think, if I lived in this house with these people and these other animals, and I had the history that they have, if you know that history, why am I acting this way? And how does that feel for me? So put yourself in their shoes. Sometimes you can close your eyes and ask them that question. That meditation that I've offered you that's accompanying these materials might help you get into that space, right? You ask those questions, and if you're really quiet over time, you may start to get pictures or feelings for them about how they feel in their body, and then you can work on shifting those. So that's another way you can do it. And then our last point today for this class, and then we can do a Q&A after this, is energy management. But I include in energy management also body work, because I believe body work helps with energy management. Okay? Mental and physical exercise is really important. And a lot of your animals are acting anxious because they are wound as tight as a top, and you are taking them for 2 15-minute walks a day. And worse than that, when you take them on the walks, you are rushing them. A dog in particular really likes to sniff, right? And sometimes they just want you to be comfortable with just standing there and letting them loiter around, because it's very exciting for them. Okay, and it will tire them out. For a cat, if it's an indoor cat, it can be very difficult to give them enough exercise for them to not be anxious. But I encourage you to keep trying different toys and different mechanisms, even if it is that you have to give them a food puzzle to help them relax more. And I like chakra work. So I do a lot of chakra clearing and chakra work for your animals when I meet you. You can look up a chakra chart on the internet and do some simple things like in traditional Chinese medicine, they kind of teach that if you just want to do a simple chakra clearing, you look at those chakras, the simple seven, we're going to call them the simple seven, and you just go and clean them out 9 times counterclockwise is easy. Imagine dirt coming off of that chakra, and then 9 times clockwise. At the simplest level, you can just imagine dirt coming off if you're doing the counterclockwise, and then fill in the color that you know the chakra is 9 times clockwise, and do that for every chakra. For an anxious animal, most of us experience that they live from what I say, from the heart up. So their heart chakra, their throat chakra, their third eye, and their crown chakra are wide open. And energetically, they're taking in too much information up here, right? So they're always on high alert because these are very open, but then their lower chakras, which have a lot to do with sense of self and safety in the world, are often very tightly closed. And you don't have to be an expert in chakra work to clear a chakra and intend that it's cleared and help your animal's energetics over time. Okay, so that's something I'd encourage you to look up and start to do, or I can teach you how to do it. And then EFT for animals and people, tapping is wonderful. And tapping is a combination of talking about whatever the problem is that drives you crazy and writing down all the things that make you crazy about it. If you've had an animal communication session, or you've just put yourself in your animal's headspace and said, how do they feel? How do I think they feel about this situation? Writing down a few things about that. And then tapping on various Chinese acupressure points for fear, grief, and insecurity. I offer that. You can also look up how to do it. I like to say that there isn't a gift to animal communication. There isn't a gift to energy work. It's just something you haven't learned or explored yet. And yeah, I may be an expert, but that's only because of things like the book Outliers, where if you spend 10,000 hours doing something, you're going to have more skill at it. But you can definitely do that. And I see people all the time think that they can't do it, and they spend a few weekends with me, and all of a sudden they're doing very well at helping their animals feel better. And if you don't want to do any of it, but you're willing to do acupressure or acupuncture for your animals, that will do a lot for you too. I don't know if they're in print anymore, but at the time of this recording, you could still get AcuCat and AcuDog, ACU cat and dog on Amazon.com. And those are great books for showing you acupressure points that you can do at home. That's one thing. Now I want to talk briefly about body work, and I want to show you a particular technique that was developed by Dr. Edward Basingwaite. I'm a teacher trainer in his body work, and I teach his body work classes. This is called somatic relaxation. So I'm going to use this dummy dog here that you have here. I want to be really clear with you that if you have a biting dog or an aggressive dog, you should not try this, right? You can look for a local expert in whole energy body balance, and they can come to your house and assess, right? There's always a risk when you touch your dog differently that they could bite you. So most of us with that will always take it very slowly. We might put a thumb under the collar. You might muzzle your dog if you're concerned, but you want to try it, or hold a leash up with one hand, or have a friend help you. If you have any concerns at all, please do not try this. But with a dog you're less afraid of, as long as their head is facing away from you and you're going very slowly, it's something to consider. Okay, so I'm going to assume his head is away from me, but in order to show you on this call, I want to show you what my hand is doing. It should take you a very long time to do this for two reasons. You're trying not to physically hurt your dog or cat, and it can work for cats too. And number two, you want to be able to assess. But you're going to take 4 fingers of one hand and a thumb on the other. And with the somatic relaxation technique, you press down with enough force, and you're not doing this. So watch my hand. I'm slowly gliding it all the way through the body and out through the tail. So for a mid-sized dog, that should take about 2.5 minutes. And it's going to bore the heck out of you. Okay, because if you think you're going slow, I want you to go even slower. And you can understand then you're feeling for heat. And again, they're positioned this way, right? And they can be standing or sitting. You're feeling for heat or tightness or even cold, because some, especially older dogs, will have an area of heat up here or in the mid-back, and then you get down to their sacrum. And anxious dogs, same thing. The sacrum, which is this area of the bum, there's a flat bone down here that's rectangular in shape. It'll be quite cold because not enough energy is getting through. Remember when I said that their chakras are often open up from here but closed down there? Go very, very, very slowly. And with the tail, you kind of wiggle, wiggle, pull gently. If they have a docked tail, you want to keep finishing that off, right? Like as though the tail finishes off. And what are the good signs? Well, if they like it, they're going to like blink their eyes, or they might yawn or lick their lips, right? A cat usually takes a few times to get used to this. A dog kind of likes it sometimes the first or second time. They may turn and look sharply at you. That's a sign that it hurts. So you want to back off. You don't want to go too hard at all, but firmly enough that you can feel tension in the body and you're kind of releasing it. If they just slightly look at you, it's just a slight warning that that's a little tense, but you can keep going. And then they might turn over or stretch. You, as the practitioner, may sigh or yawn. That's a good sign that you're releasing something in the animal. And then I want you to remember where it seemed tight or cold. And then you can go back and do a little loving massaging on the softer tissue around that spine. And I find that when people get comfortable with that body work, they do it like before a stressful event, like a walk or something that's quite activating for the anxiety of their animal. A lot of people find that their animal is much calmer. Okay. I haven't experienced CBD oils myself, but some people say that they work very well. Rescue Remedy for Pets is good. And there is a company in the United States called Dynamite Specialty Products that sells 2 sprays for dogs in particular called Relax for boys and Tranquil for girls. All of those are other ways that you can kind of add to their calming energy. Okay, so just to recap what we've talked about today. We've talked about bringing peace in your home by expecting different things of your animal companions and also rewarding them for exactly who they are. I'm going to just quickly recap. Peace is for purpose or their job in your house, which if you do not give it to them, they will choose their own. If you have a hugely anxious animal, sometimes the easiest thing to do if you can't think of a job is just to make them pretty or handsome. Okay? And that's okay. And then you do, and then you look at your environment and see how you can remove some triggers for them that spur anxiety. And then we move on to how are you asserting your energy leadership and projecting that energy leadership in the home to include things like I'm not going to let them bark at the door or the window unnecessarily and unchecked. I'm going to project energy that makes them understand that they don't need to do that, right? Or I might get a different trainer even if that first one didn't work. Then we can look at animal communication. And yes, you can hire me as an animal communicator or someone else, but you can also be sending images to your animal, sending thoughts and feelings to your animal, and asking them questions. Now, I want to just say a thing that I forgot to say about this earlier. A lot of people are like, what do you mean? Or like, are you walking around like Snow White in your house and like the deer is talking to you right there? Like, no. Sometimes, especially as a beginning animal communicator, as you might be watching this, it's great to take a picture of your animal to a different room that they're not sitting in and just look at it and close your eyes and begin to communicate. Because sometimes you want to talk to them and you're like, I'm talking to you. Why are you walking all around the house? How can you even be listening to me? But you're actually talking to their highest soul, right? So getting away from them and asking the questions can be helpful. And then finally, don't forget that treating anxiety is a mind, body, spirit deal, right? So you can't just tell them what to do differently. Sometimes working in the body and working through energy work is very important because you may be getting rid of layers of trauma that you never put there, especially with a rescue pet. And let me remind you, we're not going to tell our pet's rescue story every day for the rest of our lives. That only serves your ego and does not change their experience. Okay, it's been lovely to spend an hour with you. I hope that you have enjoyed and learned something from this, and I hope you look through the materials that are associated with this workshop. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you.